you would. All right, seeing that it's 2 o'clock, we can go ahead and call this meeting of, thank you, Dave. See, I know I keep you right there for a reason. Call this meeting of the Odessa Development Corporation to order. First thing on the agenda will be our invocation. And Mr. Boutan, would you
Be happy
bless
to.
us?
God of all people, thank you first for all the blessings that you've bestowed upon us here in this room, but more importantly, our entire community. We come here to serve the citizens of Odessa and Ector County. Please help us to deliberate logically and with a direction that is beneficial to all citizens in all parts of our community. Please help us to see all aspects of all issues and to create an environment of cooperation. Also assist the community and our first responders with any issues that are out there that come before them on a daily basis. In your name, we pray. Amen.
Amen. And if you would all please rise, I'm going to ask Mr. Russell to lead us in the pledges.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Thank you. Okay. Let's start off with a little fun. Norma, you have the plaques? Excellent. Okay. And then, did you want to?
I'll go with you. If you
Let's
want.
do. And then you've got that. Okay, excellent. If we can, we've got a couple plaques. We're going to honor Chris Cole and Tim Edgman for their service. I knew Chris and Tim couldn't be here, but we're blessed to have Teresa in the office with us. First and foremost, we just want to offer our thanks for the years of service and dedication and obviously commitment that Tim's given to the Odessa Development Corporation. And his tireless efforts have led to a lot of development for the city, new jobs, new capital investment, and it is very, very much appreciated. Thank you so much for accepting this on his path for us today.
Thank you.
And Chris, he was too bashful. He said he couldn't do this. I do have a letter from Tim that I'd like to read. It says, hard to believe that it's been 5+ years since Filiberto asked me to serve on this board. It has been a great ride. It has been a pleasure to work with the city staff during this period. There are so many projects that we have participated on, but the one that stands out most in my mind, the Odessa College building on 8th Street, bringing Ford Motors, Sewell Motor Company, and Odessa College together to build a state-of-the-art training center. Mechanics from all over the country coming into Odessa to train in auto engine repair. ODC has received awards from the state level and highly recognized from the national level as well. With over 40% rate on return on our investment since inception, the results speak for themselves. I've had the pleasure of working with several citizens during this time of service, including David Boutan, Betsy Triplett-Hurt, and Charles Carlson as they served as president. It is my hope that the ODC board will continue to be successful in the future. Sincerely, Tim Edgman.
Thank you, Dave. We have the same plaque of thanks for Chris Cole, and Teresa's been nice enough to accept this on Chris's behalf as well. But if you guys would also help me one more time, let's just give thanks to Chris and Tim both. That brings us to our consent agenda. Has everyone had an opportunity to review the minutes from our December the 8th meeting?
Yeah, I have one typo.
Okay.
That is all, in the paragraph, immediately following the executive session comment, it says, he reported that Project Big Red submitted its application and postponed the application. I think it should be postponed the application. So that, with that correction, I would move for approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as corrected. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries unanimously. And as this is an open meeting, if any member of the audience would like to address the ODC board at any time, you can do so before or during that agenda item. Anyone need to address this before we get into it? Excellent. Then let's go right into our contractors' reports. Let's lead off with our economic development report. Tom Mansky.
Good afternoon. I'll try to get with the beat here. On our projects, everything is pretty much the same as last time. We've got a few things moving. Unfortunately, they just haven't, if it was an oven and they're baking, they're not fully baked yet. I know you'll hear from compliance here in a minute. We do have a project that they addressed earlier in the week, Project Frost. They had some questions with. I have talked to them. They should have their questions answered and back to us by tomorrow. So hopefully that'll be something that you'll be able to consider in February. But you'll see in your packet on page 1, the updates are roughly the same. Project Pump's been placed on hold. Project Castle, they're checking on their status via email. A lot of these people, if they don't have a new answer for us, unfortunately, they choose not to get back with us. Moving on to Ophelia down at the bottom, I think that's going to start moving again here. I talked to them yesterday, and I think in February and March that's going to start moving forward. That's a solar project out in Ector County. I reported last month Lithium had come to town for a site visit. They brought their CEO, their COO, and a consultant and spent a couple of days with us. That went very well. And then once again, Frost, I mentioned the others, there's no new information to bother you with. And you'll hear about another project here shortly. I will mention Acero because they've been in the news lately from a standpoint of there's been some comments on TV and everything. And since there is a good-sized audience here, I will let you know it's moving forward. It hadn't stopped. They're still in business. They're doing everything they can. They're doing it out of Houston because they're in the engineering and design phase and things of that nature. And that's where they have the skill sets down there to take care of that stuff. And so a lot of people make comments to me, and I don't think they take into consideration this is a new company, and if you look at the economic environment that we're in, it's kind of hard to go out there and grab the money right off the bat that they need to get this thing moving forward. But we're confident it's coming. It's just not coming in our time. It's coming in another time. But I feel strongly that it will be here sooner than later. But moving on in the report, wanted to share some things you'll see on, I forgot what the page is, but we've got our economic indicators on page 6. It's not labeled as such, but on page 6, you'll see we're doing great in sales tax. If you compare on the labor market statistics, that's a tough word to say. Our unemployment rate is great. We're down to 4.0 after a year ago, 6.2. So all those statistics are good. I think you're going to start seeing more and more of a slowdown in housing thanks to the mortgage rates. The page after that, you're going to see our social media and who's following us. By the way, I asked y'all a while back. I think I'll keep remembering to do that. Raise your hand if you've followed us on these things. All right, it's much better. Mr. Boutin, I expect to see your hand up next month. And so that's mostly what we have right now. You'll hear from the compliance committee here in a bit. I'll be happy to answer any questions. We've got a couple of projects that will be new next month that we'll be able to report on to you that we just weren't ready to put anything in this report.
Excellent.
Okay?
Any
Thank
questions for Mr. Mansky?
Thank you.
Awesome, thanks, Tom. Okay, current media.
Hi there. So, recognize most of you. It's been a while. Couple new faces that I'm sure we'll get to. Just want to say, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to handle the marketing for the Development Corporation. We're really excited. My business partner, Brittany Mann, is here with me as well. You'll be hearing a lot from her as we start reporting on the analysis of everything that we're doing. So, we have a very short report. We're just getting started. I believe that you're reviewing the contract for us a little later in this meeting. So I just wanted to tell you what we've done so far and see if you have any questions. So last week, we met with the advertising committee for ODC as well as the economic development staff. Also met with the staff before the holidays just to kind of get a feel for everything that has transpired, where we need to be, what we need to be looking at. A couple of things that came out of that meeting, the direction to us, for the most part, is that most of our messaging, we're going to be as targeted as possible, both in our internal local markets and our external markets. Where we can, there will be analytics provided on anything that's possible. There will still be some awareness advertising as well, but we'll kind of go through that with the committee and then bring that to the board as those things come up. Couple of immediate things. We are in the process of looking at the look and feel of the ads, the website, all of those things, looking at graphics, and we'll be presenting new concepts in the next week to 2 weeks to the advertising committee that will also come back to the board next month. Immediately, the staff is attending the SHOT Show in Vegas next week. We are going to do a very small geofence campaign that will start this Sunday. We have a landing page, some ads basically saying that Odessa is open for business. Those ads will be able to follow any participants after they leave the show. So it's just to let them know that Odessa's here. They are attending with a bigger marketing organization, but we're able to market back to them and kind of keep our name in front of them. So we will be starting that immediately. Outside of that, we're looking at the website and what is kind of new trends that are happening in the economic development world. And then we'll come back to the group with a recommendation on that. We'll also be meeting with Lindsay on the economic development staff to see what we can do to support her with content or anything else that, with things that come up with the board. Couple of other things, we've also talked about some public relations, some ways to take the things that you guys are doing for businesses and make sure that the rest of the community knows what ODC is doing for the businesses in the community. So just to start, very simple, short report for now. We'll be executing by next month and have more details to share. Any questions?
No, I will say that in our advertising committee meeting that we had, it was a great meeting. Really reached out to Tom and his staff to really kind of understand what their needs are and really pull them in. They were very insightful in some of the things that they need. So I think we're going to be in very good hands and moving forward. But again, very targeted. Very on point, not trying to shotgun something that has to be rifled. And I'm excited about having you guys on board.
Same here. One thing I left out, I think the committee had asked me to address the budget. Since we are starting in January, we have resubmitted a 9-month budget that we prorated. So what you will be seeing is basically that amount is $375,000, which is significantly lower than our initial bid due to the 9 months versus 12. And then there's also a contingency. There's about a $25,000 contingency to finish up anything that was started prior to us coming in, should we need it. And I think most things, I met with CBA before the holidays. Pretty much everything has wrapped up. There's a couple things that we may need to finish up. So, but they've been very gracious, given us all of their files and worked with us to get those things ready for you guys for us to start.
Excellent.
Okay?
Any other questions for Christy?
Okay. Thank you very much. We're looking forward to it.
Steve, thank you. Okay. The Black Chamber, Chris Walker.
Good evening to everybody. Hope your new year has been eventful and productive. Hope your 2023 started as a lot better than mine. So we just want to touch base and bring you up to speed on where we are. Just simple, numbers didn't do a whole lot of changing. We were fortunate enough, being in the month of December, which we had a lot of activity as far as there at the office because of some of the events that took place. We actually are to the point that hopefully within the next 2 or 3 months, we had a young business lady that is in the process of opening a nail and an eyelash studio. We're in the process of working with her, so we're hoping that within the next couple of months, we will actually have something in place where she's a tax-paying entity to the city, and that she will bring on, not just, she's thinking about maybe 1, maybe 2 people that she will employ. So this will actually add people to the payroll. So that's something that we're really excited about. The gentleman that we've talked about on several occasions that has been going through the process with us in the SBDC to get his food truck and his restaurant established. He is to the point now where he's just about to the financing stage. So he is just about to complete his process. So we're starting to see some of these projects come about. So hopefully they will add income to the city and to our tax payroll. We did our workshop with the SBDC, which was how to write a business plan narrative. Then we have we'll start our January workshops, which will be in partnership with SBDC. We were able to work with the St. James Baptist Church, and this took place in the second Friday of December. Unfortunately, we saw over 200 families that came in for food. We gave them hot meals, box food, as well as vouchers for meat for the holidays. So we're still seeing a big need as far as our community, as people not able to make ends meet. So hopefully with the employment rate going down and more jobs available, maybe we can get some people in some of these jobs. We were fortunate enough to work with the Odessa Chamber and the ECISD appreciation reception there at the Coliseum. So we thank Renee and her organization for letting us piggyback with them and on such a successful event. Pretty much everything was, we did the ribbon cutting with the Woodson Boys and Girls Club, and we were able to get their book vending machine up and going. So we're starting to see a lot of the projects actually hit the ground running. So hopefully that's a good sign for this year. So any questions, comments? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris.
All right.
Okay. UTPB Small Business Development Center, Tyler.
Good afternoon. Hope everybody had a good holiday season.
Yes, sir.
I certainly did. So the report's in your packet. I wanted to go over some things with it. Obviously, we had a shorter month because of the Christmas break and holiday break, but we had 210 counseling sessions for the month of December, 175 counseling hours. We presented one seminar. That was the one, How to Write a Business Plan Narrative. We had 17 participants show up for that. So it was kind of early in the month because I was worried if you got the closer you get to Christmas, people got other things to do. So 17 I felt pretty good about. We had one new business start in the month of December, and that one was in Odessa, and that was a smoothie shop. Pretty cool little concept he's got going. And then we had one expansion. That is an aviation company. They do services for businesses in the area, but they also do flight training. So that's pretty cool. That was a fun business plan to work on. Total capitalization for the month, a little over 1.3 million, 582
2,000 and change of that from Odessa. We had 15 new FTEs. Most of those FTEs came from a franchise, the iced tea company that we worked with a couple months ago that got started. So they ramped up to basically full staff. So 12 of those came from that alone. So and again, those are FTEs, so it was actually more than 12 people, because several of those are part-timers, as you can imagine. The seminars for the month of January, we have 5 scheduled. 2 of them have already happened. Earlier this month, I did the one on building a business improvement plan, which is basically ratio analysis on using their income statement and balance sheets to do ratio analysis. Yeah, real thrilling topic for most people, but I enjoy it. It's part of the Profit Soup class that we have a bunch of we have 10 businesses participating in. There's 30 region-wide, but we have 10. We had a lender seminar Tuesday night. I had 22 people at that. That was good. The 3 we have remaining are fear of financials. We have create a marketing plan, which is later in the month. And then the one I skipped over, which is actually the 24th, is going to be the government contracting workshop. That's going to be on the UTPB main campus in Odessa in the Mesa building. From noon to 2, free lunch. We'll have the guy from PTAC come in and talk about government contracting. We'll have a person from the SBA to come in and talk about working with the SBA. And then kind of under the radar there, we're going to have one of our own employees come in, a UTB employee, and talk about historically underutilized businesses and how they can qualify to become vendors for state agencies and things like that, including UTPB. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm hoping we get a big crowd. Anybody that wants to attend, it's free. And there is a free lunch. I just have to know if people are coming so I can order enough food. And it's a Tuesday, so we are doing tacos. So, any questions?
What's the concept of fear of financials? What are you trying to?
2 things, really, well, 3 things. What we're trying to accomplish there primarily is to convince people they really need to get a good bookkeeper. That they don't want to try to do this. If this is not their area of expertise, this is not something they need to try to learn on. Secondly, if they're not going to do that, we want to show them how to review their income statement and their balance sheet. And then to look at things not just in terms of whole numbers, but as percentage of revenue, things like that. And then we talk a little bit about ratios. That's a little beyond that, but we will touch on that a little bit.
Okay, thank you. Excellent.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you, Tyler. Thank you. Excellent. Motran, Mr. Beecham.
Well, we started off this week in Austin for the beginning of session. We had about 20 offices talking about our county road grant program for energy impacted areas and trying to get that refunded. So we're having a little progress there, and that's, again, good. We've talked a little bit about that in the past, so I won't go through all of that. But again, making those rounds and trying to see what's available there to bring that about. The second thing that I would talk to you about today is a little bit of good news. Of course, the EPA decided not to, at this time, pursue a non-attainment area for the Permian Basin based on ozone standards. So that was good. And you'll remember we had a meeting on that a while back and had presented a bunch of data to them that we collected out here from that. Part of the reason for some of the folks who are newer here that we're very concerned about that is it ups your construction costs by about 20% when you start living by those standards. So number one, we're far below those attainment levels, and we don't want to be on the list and see that extra expense. However, one of the good things about this was it gave us opportunity to work with the TCEQ. They were very helpful with us in this endeavor. They're not always the most helpful to some folks, but as we went through this while we were in Austin, we had a discussion with one of those commissioners and thanking them and talking about this. There's some feeling that this could come up again a little bit later on, and they've encouraged us to continue testing. And so we'll probably do a couple of rounds of that. It takes about 2 or 3 days, and we've got an intern who can do that for us. That way, if this does come up again, number one, we'll have a better data set to submit based on the historic and more current data. But the other thing that came out of that conversation was they've really encouraged us to begin looking at maybe some submissions for grant funding through TERP, which is the Texas Emission Reduction Program. And it's funding that they give out for projects that reduce emissions. And the conversation that we had with them was looking at trying to find some particular projects out here on the road and highway venue. that we might be able to look at for some funding there. And to give you a little basis on that, today when we submit federal grants, some of the bill grants and things like that that we've gotten, a component of that for the last 20 years has been showing how much that will reduce carbon. And so essentially any of those projects, if you're building an overpass where there's a stoplight, cars going 60 miles an hour, very little reductions, cars stopped, lots of emissions. And so we just do a calculation that shows, you know, by alleviating that you reduce carbon. And so that being the case, we have some basis already in doing that. So we're going to start trying to look for some projects there here in this area that might be kind of small, things like that nature, but where we could look at applying for some of that funding. They have encouraged that and suggested that, so I think it's worth a shot. We'll look and see what we can find. Again, always looking for those sources. Finally, the last thing is February the 3rd, we'll have our implementation plan kickoff for I-14. It will be at 11 a.m. at the Permian Basin Petroleum Museum. TxDOT will be coming in to kind of go through their plan there on that. And that will be particularly important to Midland and Odessa because of, number one, the 158 corridor there on the Midland side, but also remember I-14 connects into Loop 338 here in Odessa. So again, we hope that'll be an opportunity to expedite some of the planning and development of South Loop 338 as well. That's my report unless you have any questions.
Kind of what's the time horizon on I-14 for our area?
I'll be dead and gone, so I'm not too worried about that part of it. The original segments of the interstate that began with President Eisenhower took about 50 or 60 years to get there. There'll be segments of this that will go pretty quick. There'll be segments that don't. The only thing that I've really ever worried about in this is Odessa to about San Angelo to an interstate grade. There's the segment that already exists between Killeen and Temple. But as you get into that portion from San Angelo back over to Killeen, you've got some real low traffic counts. And to expedite something there, well-meaning as it might be, you're taking money away from a project that might save lives. But I think this portion from Odessa back over to San Angelo, we've got traffic counts there. And if you go back to our original Perryman report that we did when we started looking at roads out here, there was a significant economic impact from connecting Amarillo, Lubbock, and Midland and Odessa. And there was also a pretty significant impact of San Angelo, Midland, and Odessa that way. So, like I said, the rest of it may take a while, but we'd like to get that part done sooner than later. And it also ties into the I-27 portion of it. So I think that is something you could see over the next 20 years.
Thank you.
Thank
Any
y'all.
other questions? Thank you, James. Okay, city administrative support, financials, Mr. Fry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. What I wanted to present to you today, we have changed the format just slightly from last month, trying to revise in a way that's most meaningful for the board's consideration. You'll notice that there's an additional page added this month, and it's in the fourth page of the financial statements. The idea was to try to add some explanatory notes to tie the different parts of the report together in a way that's more understandable after we had talked to Mr. Crow and Mr. Russell about that several weeks ago. Still trying to come up with the best formula, but hopefully this will give you a little bit more significance and meaning as we go through these numbers. If you look at that page 4, you'll see a columnar approach to it. I'm going to basically try to tie back page 2, which is the statement of revenues and expenditures, and page 5, which becomes the investment summary, and tie those numbers together for you in a way that allows you to see how the money came in or goes out, as the case may be. So if I may turn to page 4, you'll see under the purchased amount, which is shown on page 5, you'll see the first line on there under government pools is $1,187,131. And if you turn back to page 2, and I'm sorry if I keep kind of turning you back and forth, but you'll see that the first two lines on there, the $1,185,460 and the $1,671, are the revenue that ties to that column that's entitled the purchase amount. The second item is the changes in fair value and interest. You'll see that going back to page 2, we had $196,161, and going back over to where we had page 5, you'll see those first 3 items under changes in fair value and interest are the interest on each of those different categories of investments. The only difference between that, excuse me, is on municipal bonds, we had the 3 factors of we purchased some accrued interest during the month, we received some interest that had been accrued during the month, and finally, we of course accrued for the investments during the month. And those numbers actually go into to page 1 on the balance sheet for the accrued interest receivable. So when you tie those different things together, you will see that the $196,161 shown on page 2 is the amount of interest we receive for the month. Finally, the gain or loss on investments there is simply the $18,954. You can see that again down on page 5, the last number under changes in fair value and in interest, which is simply the accretion of the recognition of the gain or loss. In this case, it was a gain during this month because of market conditions, but that was recognized as income during the month as well. And then as you go down further, you'll see the sales and withdrawal amounts, the $17,409 on there. Again, if you go back to to page 2, you'll see that those were our level of monthly expenditures that were made. This month, it was really quite frankly, very, very few expenditures. We simply had some bank services and then the administration fee for the city. And that's what shows as the sales and withdrawal amount on page 5 that indicates the monthly amount there. And then finally, under the sales and withdrawal amounts that are shown on page 5, you'll see there that the numbers went in and out of the different accounts from the standpoint of the fact that we had one security that matured for $1 million, and then we purchased 2 other maturities. And just for your information, those 2 maturities that we purchased were $1 million par of Hawaii State GL tax GO bonds due April 1st of 23, and then with a yield of 4.51%. And then the second $1 million par was McLean and Woodford counties 3 GO bonds due 2/1 of 24 with a yield of 4.99%. But you'll see that we basically take our account with Frost, have the maturity roll back into that account, which is the $1 million used there, and then we took the money out to purchase the 2 new securities, and that's the outflow to that.
Makes sense.
Okay. With that, if I can.
That's very, very helpful,
Good, I hope so.
having that in that format.
I was hoping that after our discussion, I was hoping that this would be more clear as far as
That's great.
is how this works, whilst we still keep our financial statements kind of clean. By adding this separate page, hopefully it helps to tie those things together.
Helps a lot.
Good, good. Finally, if I can present the sales tax information for January. The ODC sales tax collections for January 2023 were $1,160,894, which is an increase of $246,832, or 27%, when compared to January of 2022. On a fiscal year-to-date basis, the total we've collected for the first 4 months of fiscal year 2023 is $4,601,063, which is an increase of $944,703, or 25.84%, when compared to the first 4 months of fiscal year 2022.
Excellent.
With that, I'd be happy to address any questions or anything that might.
Fantastic explanation. Any questions?
I guess the side effect that's positive of increasing interest rates is our overall yield on our investment portfolio has gone way the heck up.
Oh, it's gone way up, yes, and it's simply a function of what the market's doing, but yes, that's a very accurate observation.
Excellent. Great job, Larry. Thank you very much.
If we could have those, we need to have that approved.
Oh, yes. Can I get a motion for approval of financials, please?
So moved.
Motion, Mr. Russell, second, Ms. Holman. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, we do, after the report, we do have the responses to the RFP for compliance services that have been received. If it's acceptable, I'd like to provide each member with a copy of the 2 responses that we received.
Please do, thank you.
One was from Whitley Penn, with an address here in Odessa, and the other one was from Weaver, who's the current contractor. So if I may, I'd just like to provide
Please
those.
do, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I still have my copy.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So while we're on that topic, so we did get 2 of the contractors that responded, but I wanted to ask you all, that was put out on the RFP on December the 13th, is that right, Larry?
I don't have the date. It was about that, yes.
I think that was about right, with a due date of January the 5th. So for everybody we sent it to, right in the middle of the Christmas holidays and New Year's, they only had about 3 weeks to put a proposal together and respond. I'm still not real sure why we put such a short time period on that, but the option is up to you guys. We have 2 bids. They look pretty good, but you guys haven't had time to look at them at all. But my question to you is do we want, our choices at this point, correct me if I'm wrong, Larry, are we can accept these 2 and make a decision from them. We can reject these 2, put it back out again with a longer time period to try to get more responses, or we can just renew the contract with Weaver. That pretty accurate?
Yes.
I suggest we give us time to look this over, and then after review of it, we may have a clearer understanding of which direction we want to go.
I would agree with that. But I just want to leave it up to you guys.
I'd be in agreement with that.
Okay, so let's do that. I think Weaver's agreed on a month-to-month with us for right now. I'll let you all review the 2 proposals that we have, and we'll put it back on the agenda for next month to come back to decide whether we want to just work with these 2, whether we want to reject these 2 and put it out again, or whether we want to renew the contract with Weaver. Okay? Okay, committee and officer reports. Partnership did not meet. Tax incentive, David, Melanie?
Did not meet.
No, it should be coming up here probably in the next 60 days or something, I would guess.
Okay. Advertising, Jeff updated us a little bit, but Mickey, Jay, do you guys have any update on, do you guys want to add anything to that?
We had a good meeting with her last Thursday, with Christie, and getting on track.
Excellent. Okay, Downtown Odessa Grants Design and Review Board, Mr. Robinson, Ms. Holman?
Oh, yes. We met and we mostly discussed Icon certifying their amounts coming up, and to amend to include a fire system in there, and what we were lacking in there was bids enough to meet the compliance, required compliance amount. There was 1 bid in there, and I felt like it was necessary to have more, so I don't know if we have that today or not.
If we can, Casey, can you update us a little bit on that? And then I think Mr. Rodriguez is here as well to touch on that, if that's okay with everyone.
Sure. We're listed
you.
on the agenda under number 12. Do you want to do it then, or do you want to do it now?
You guys want to do it now, or? Like, we can move that one up, or we can.
Yeah, most definitely. I'm fine
since-
with whatever you
since
prefer. I
we're
just,
here.
yeah.
Is that okay with you guys? Want to do it now? Okay, yeah, let's go ahead and move 12 up then.
Sure, so we are here asking for an amendment to the original grant for Icon Tavern. A little backstory, this was prior to my time. This grant was issued in 2021. And at that time, Mr. Rodriguez, who's one of the owners, had requested coverage for fire suppression system. That is a covered expense in the grants. For whatever reason, it was not added to the original worksheet, and so that amount was not included in his original grant request. It was submitted, it got approved, it went through the full process, we're currently in that process. When Mr. Rodriguez realized that that was not actually included in the original grant, he contacted me, said, you know, I'm very appreciative of this, but I also wanted to point out that this was supposed to be included. Fire suppression is going to be a requirement for his business, and so I let him know that I'd be happy to bring it to you, to the board, and let you guys be the deciding factor. I do have, from a meeting back in 2021 where he met with the fire marshal, and they did know that a fire suppression system would be required. I don't have access to emails from previous employees when I was not here. So as far as proof that there was discussion, all I have is what was in the file when I took it over. And that is from Mr. Omar Galindo with OFR, stating that there would be, in his initial meeting with Mr. Rodriguez, they talked about needing a fire suppression system. And then Mr. Rodriguez is here to talk about what happened prior to my arrival at downtown Odessa. But we did have a meeting with Ms. Holman and Mr. Robinson and Mr. Rodriguez just to kind of address it in the committee. Ms. Holman has since let us know that she will have to abstain from voting for this because she is an attorney at the same law firm that represents Mr. Rodriguez. So just to keep the waters clear.
I found that out a few hours after the meeting.
Right.
I didn't previously know that another of my partners had rendered legal services, so as soon as I found out, I prepared my conflict of interest paperwork and turned it in, and
We did get that same day.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
and I won't deliberate on this matter or participate in the voting.
So at that meeting, it was discussed, Mr. Rodriguez does have one quote for the fire suppression system, and I did submit the updated investment worksheet for that fire suppression system. The total for both the actual sprinklers and then the monitoring of the sprinkler system is a total of $78,790. This is an infrastructure request, and he is in tier 1, so this would be a 50-50 split. So the owner responsibility is $39,395, and then the grant responsibility, if approved, would be $39,395. So like I said, he does have one current quote. He had said that he submitted a quote in his original request that had gotten left off, but he couldn't find it. At the time of the meeting, he did not have that original quote. Between then and now, he has found that original quote back from 2021. And so I have brought that. I only have one copy, but I can share this with y'all. This is, like I said, the original quote that he got. I will mention that between that time that he got his original quote to today, some of the rules of the grant system have changed. So when he got the grant, it was a requirement for 2 bids, 2 proposals. Current day, it's a requirement for 3. That's totally up to you guys how y'all want to look at it. I just did want to address that and let you know that at the time of his grant, it was only a requirement for 2. So we do have those 2 today. Current requirements is 3. So if you guys wanted another grant, he has submitted to get another quote. The only quote other folks that do it are in Lubbock. He's tried to get that scheduled, but it just wasn't able to get done in time for this meeting. So I told him that we would come, address it, give you what we have today, and then go from there. But he is here. Also, his contractor is here if y'all want to ask questions.
Is that second quote still valid?
It was done in 21.
Right, it was done in, I'm sorry, February of 2021, so I doubt it.
Who was that quote from and how much?
It was from Abco Fire Protection, and it was for the sum of $48,500. But I don't believe this is for the monitoring portion of it. This is just for the sprinkler system itself, which in the current quote, the sprinkler system itself is $54,090. So there was a bit of an increase, but again, this was from 2021, and his most recent quote was from this year, so.
Can you, and you guys may know, but can you educate me a little bit of the difference between the monitoring and, I mean, obviously I understand the sprinkler system part, but what is the monitoring?
I'm gonna phone a
And
friend.
does it, does that qualify under our guidelines as well?
I'm gonna phone a friend, and Mr. Anthony Rios, who is the contractor on this job, will be able to fill you right in.
Thank
Good
you.
afternoon. Anthony Rios, Part Two Companies. Basically, on the fire sprinkler system itself, is just the water part of it. Then we have the fire alarm system, which pretty much coincides with the knock box for the fire department, everything else.
Okay.
Plus, we still have a underground fire extension to the tap. So there's 3 different phases on that fire sprinkler system. The first one that he did show me that he found was only the fire sprinkler system, not including the alarm. So other than that, both of these bids, which one bid was from mine, one bid was from APCO, the underlying portion, the underground portion of it is not included because it has to be done by a city personnel, basically somebody that the city approves to do their underground taps.
Utility
So-
contractor.
Excuse me?
Has to be done by utility.
It has to be done by a utility contractor that the city approves. We cannot do it ourselves. My plumber can't do it. Has to be a certain contractor. So even though the sprinkler guys put their bids in, they do not include that because they are not certified with the city to do any of the underground tap.
Okay, that explains that. So we do have 2 bids, and I can see from the first bid and the second, they're relatively close, even though they're over a year difference between them just for the sprinkler part. And then
Yes,
it
sir.
makes sense with adding in the alarm control components and then the utility services from the city. So the question is, when Mr. Rodriguez originally signed his contract, we only required 2. We do require 3 now. Can you guys?
Question, we have 1.5 now. We don't have the monitoring system. And due to it being an amendment, and we abide by the 2, I think that's minimum on this here present today. This has been known since 2020. Omar's letter is from 2020, is that correct?
Let me verify that for you, sir. Yes, sir, that's
It was the
on
very
March
fir- one of the
6th
very
of
first thing that
2020.
was known about it, so we've had these years to come up with this, and I know maybe it was a slip of my mind or a thought, but since it is amendment, I think it's important that we have at least the 2 bids, if not the 3. And I would say, make a motion to table it till we have the bids.
So do we have Lubbock scheduled to come give a bid?
APCO, that is the company that gave the original bid.
Okay, so they would just need to come update their bid to include the monitoring equipment?
I mean, and on the sprinkler part of itself, basically downtown Odessa requires the 2 bids from the contract, from the building owner, which first bid was turned in prior to his original contractor. My bid was turned in. It was awarded. City will not approve it unless we have the sprinkler system. Anything over 100 people requires a sprinkler system. So that's a given that we got to do either way. We wouldn't even get a permit unless we were going to require it. It's on the drawings, everything's there. APCO, we can get them to come back if you want to do that, but we've put down payments and everything already on our sprinkler system that we're getting installed now. So that's the only issue that we have on that part.
How far into the installation are you guys already on what you're?
All the
doing?
drawings have been submitted. Fire department's already approved it. They're waiting on the underground trenching company to get their stuff in, and we'll be starting here pretty soon. Everything's been approved.
Okay. But still, under our contract, we still require 2. I'm gonna leave this up to you guys for more discussion. Mr. Robinson's already made a motion that we table this till we get the second.
Can I just ask a quick question? I think the concern is that typically with these grants, they're not allowed to begin the process until the grant has been approved. They are on the verge of opening. They are right at the very final stages. And I think the concern is sometimes it can take these fire companies a month, 45 days to come out, do the updated evaluation, and then return with a quote. So I think the concern from Mr. Rodriguez is that this could delay their opening. While he's grateful for the opportunity to get a grant with you guys, he does not want it to delay his opening. So I think our request would be that if, I totally agree that there needs to be 2 quotes, we can get this one updated, and I don't think that they have a problem getting this one updated. I believe he is gonna move forward with his current company that they're using. Is there a way to, yes, sir?
Is there, not getting the grant funds, is that gonna prohibit you from opening?
No, I'm going through the
Okay,
process.
so what if we should continue to require a revised bid and the grant amount is based on the lower of the 2?
Okay,
What we're not addressing here, is the fact that, we did provide these bids. We provided these bids to Alexa, who was the interim, I guess, kind of putting all together the reports and everything on that, addressing that Larry said that we've known since 2020. We did submit those. We submitted both bids to them. This is one of the ones that I was able to find. Keep in mind, this is from 2021, so I had to go back quite a bit to try and find this. Alexa, I don't know, in the process of that time, maybe lost those reports or did not include them in the actual bid for approval. That's what I brought up to her attention. I brought that up to Alexa's attention a couple of months after that because I did not realize that she left that off. So when I brought it up to her attention, she basically told me that we could not get approval for it because we already started demolition on the front of the building and that we could not get approved because we'd already started progress. Well, I let that go. I went ahead and took the hit and said, hey, this is on me. I've got to pay for this stuff. I asked Casey here about that, and I said, you know, I've got a question, you know, to ask you about that. And I said, this is the issue that happened and everything that we had. Casey said, let me check on that. Let me check with these guys and see if there's something we can do. We did find out later that we could do an amendment. So Alexa misinformed me on that portion of it. So there were bids that were submitted to her, and she did not turn them in with the project. So the issue of having 2 bids, I have 2 bids here. They were provided 2 different bids because the bid that I currently have from Anthony is not the same bid that was provided at the time to Alexa. This is the only information I could find. We couldn't get someone to come out and give a bid this quickly from last week. But again, addressing the fact that we've known since 2020, we submitted those things. I didn't delay anything. I got the bids when they were required. They were turned into the proper people. The error was made by the interim DOI. I guess, what would we have called her position at that time? I mean, she wasn't.
she was the interim director.
Interim director. She was the interim director. And so that's the issue that I have. I did my part. The error was not on my side. It was, and I hate to throw anybody under the bus, but it was the interim director who left that out.
And I get that totally, and so, and obviously we wouldn't want to fault you for that. But it looks like the question is, because we're still missing one of those original bids, and it's only for the sprinkler part. So that kind of puts us in a position to say, okay, do we just grant half of the sprinkler part or half of that 54,000 then? Or do we go ahead and table this and come back, let you get a second bid for the full amount and get you closer to the amount that you're looking for?
Yeah, as long as it doesn't affect, as long as me starting construction, that doesn't affect this portion of it, it will not delay it because I'm gonna pay for it regardless.
I don't have a problem with that. Do you guys have a problem with that?
That's great.
I
So-
wouldn't have a problem. Could we do this? Maybe could we award 50% of the 54,900 or 54,090? And then give you the opportunity to bring back the alarm portion of it with the second bid. Next time we can look at that and then make an
I'm
award
perfectly
there.
okay with that. Like I said, regardless of the outcome, I mean, I've got to go along with the progress and get this thing done, so.
So a couple of things first. Any more discussion right this second? Okay, if not, I have a motion on the table right now a motion to table this. So either Mr. Robinson can withdraw his motion, or we have to look for a second and vote on what's on the table.
I'd like to ask the attorney a question for
Sure.
a moment first. In our discussions, Alexa is the principal point of this, and I'd asked, well, get an affidavit saying she got these, and I was told that it wasn't legal for the city of Odessa to get an affidavit from an ex-employee.
No, I don't think I said it wasn't legal. I said she's not an employee of the city, and I don't think it would be appropriate, but that's not my call.
Because I don't think she's gonna probably wanna sign this affidavit.
Right.
Who knows what she's gonna wanna do?
I don't necessarily think that's
So,
needed, do you?
I'll leave my motion on the table.
So we have a motion to table.
Okay, the question would be, can we get this, if we get this information, can we email, approve this via email going forward in order to save time? I mean,
Even that, I mean, would it bother you to come back and do the second part next month?
Whatever works for you.
Mr. Richards, I don't think we can email and do all that to approve it going forward. We're either in for a penny, in for a pound here.
So,
Okay.
And
So,
as
Is
long
this
as
still
I can
gonna
come back-
cover the underground part?
well, that's what we're talking about. This, the second part of it would end up covering the underground part, the alarm monitoring system
Okay.
in that table. But right now, I have a motion on the table that says to table this until the second bid comes in. So with that, is there a second?
okay, this tabling would allow us to get updated information. We're gonna approve it again next month. I mean, we're gonna approve it next month anyway, but he's not prohibited from going forward.
That's correct.
I'd second.
So I have a motion and a second to table the full amount till next meeting. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. We're gonna table, wait for that second bid.
One abstention.
and then-
Yeah, well, I'll say
And,
that.
yes, and one
I'm
abstention.
sorry,
Thank
yeah.
you.
Yeah, please note me as abstaining.
Okay. So what we'll do is we'll look for that second bid, come back to try to approve the whole thing next month.
We'll get
And then you're free to move forward with your opening.
Okay, great. Thank
perfect.
you, guys.
I think that was our biggest
That was the
concern.
big, main concern, is not getting in the process, so,
Okay.
thank you so much.
Just me abstaining.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, thank you, guys. Okay, Compliance Committee. Mr. Robinson, Ms. Holman, any updates from our Compliance Committee meeting that happened yesterday? Oh, yes, ma'am. And so, I'm gonna let you come in and discuss those here in just a second. This is just an update from our,
It was Larry's first compliance meeting. I think he enjoyed it.
Very much, thank you.
It was a really good discussion, so I was glad that our committee really gave a good dog and pony show for Larry's first one.
it was a good meeting.
So those are always good meetings with good discussion, and that's all I have to offer on that. Larry, do you have anything you wanna?
We had some good dialogue and talking to attorney that works the other side of the fence, that works for the grantee instead of the grantor, so we were able to,
Oh, this is the compliance.
Pardon?
We're talking about
Oh,
compliance
I'm
meeting,
sorry.
not our,
I was on the legal.
yeah.
We'll get to that one here in a minute.
Larry and I got to meet a few times over the last
No kidding.
couple of weeks.
Okay, and I agree. I think we had a great meeting, great discussion. It was said more than once that in those meetings, you know, we all learn new things every time, which is fantastic, and I think the Compliance Committee does a great job. Without anything else, let's, now, Legal Services Committee. We can,
Okay, on that, David and Larry met at my office with me, and we placed a couple of phone calls to some attorneys that work in that area. We got a hold of one, the other we left a voicemail for, and I haven't heard back from him. We spoke to Stephen Moore at Jackson Walker, and his experience was pretty on target, except that he has generally represented companies
the other side.
that are, negotiating with municipalities for different types of economic development incentives, which I don't feel like is a negative at all. I feel like if anything, that gives us some well-rounded information.
What was that firm name?
Jackson Walker, they have offices everywhere. But this gentleman, I believe, is based in San Antonio, or no, he's in Austin. And I can forward his credentials to Norma so that everybody can take a look at it. He also has I I don't know if it's a younger attorney or probably a younger attorney that works with him. So it's a team. It was clarified for me later, and I shared with Larry and David that the younger attorneys got a lower billable rate per hour. Both attorneys are more expensive than what you would find in this market. The senior attorney's billable rate is $11.20 an hour, which I was not overly shocked by, based on it's big law firm, it's a niche area, and this guy had, what did he say, 35 years experience in economic development. The younger attorney's billable rate is lower. It is $8.65 an hour.
Melanie, what about the open meetings and that part?
So what we had talked about in the last meeting was maybe concentrating on finding an economic development specialist that we can contract with on an as-needed basis. Because the likelihood of finding an economic development specialist that also specializes in open meetings is extremely unlikely. And we've got those specialties covered with city legal. I don't know what city legal's process is for contracting with outside counsel. Is that something that y'all would do, or is that something we would ask you to do? Because incidentally, the Jackson Walker attorney that we spoke to also has experience representing a tiers board. And so that expertise may be something that city legal wants to tap into for other matters.
We could do it, we just need to run it by city council.
And so it would go through council. They said that they wouldn't want like a monthly retainer or anything. It would be bill as they go. I mentioned their hourly rates.
I just want to make sure city council's aware of it, and it's,
They need to be, absolutely. And now that I've given you all the sticker shock, the senior attorney has agreed to a reduced rate if we use him of $9.50 an hour. And according to one of his partners, he does something I had never heard of called using a light pencil when he bills. This is not something I aspire to, but.
I would assume that translates to, you call and have got a question that takes 15 minutes, he doesn't bill you for the full hour.
I don't know that, I am not gonna make any representation as to what that may or may not be.
You didn't want to know the exact
I
definition?
am in favor of attorneys billing every minute that they work.
Imagine that.
So, I think, I was impressed with his experience. I do hope we get to speak to the other attorney, and I have some other lines in the water to some big law firm contacts, just to see if there's other specialists we could talk to. But,
I sent you one, did you
yes,
contact
he's
him?
who I left a voicemail for
Okay.
and have not yet heard back from.
Okay.
We called him on that same day,
Excellent.
and the only thing I can figure out is his last name is difficult to pronounce. Is it Gahib? Gahib? But yeah, we left him a voicemail. I've not had a return call as of yet. And then I've got some lines in the water to like Vincent Elkins and some other of the larger firms to see.
I'll see if I can't get a return phone call out of him, just to have him call you guys.
Sure, well, and to be fair,
I
it
don't
was.
know him personally, I've used somebody else at that firm, they were really excellent.
Mhm. It was only a couple of days ago that we called, so. He may give me a return call here early next week.
Excellent.
So
David, Larry, anything to add?
well, I would just say we're very early in the process
Yeah.
at this point, but it looks like there appears to be an option out there. And I would say that it's probably, if we utilize an outside firm, we would maybe create some contract templates that we could use going forward. This may be front-end loaded from a cost perspective, and then very little cost going forward. We don't know at this point, but that's kind of the way we're
Yeah.
pursuing
He
it.
mentioned that, that that he'd be happy to work with us in that regard, help us build good templates, and then be available for questions as time went on. Oh, okay. He mentioned that if we have projects like the, solar farm that come through, that in the past, he has at times represented the lenders to those projects. And part of his job is to communicate to the lenders what the local incentives are. So there might be situations where if we had questions, we'd have to waive any potential conflict there. But it didn't sound like he would be representing the company in negotiations with this, with us for the incentives. So I wasn't uncomfortable with that possibility. Larry, do you have anything to add?
Well, he brought up that he respects renewable energy a great deal and is a proponent of that. And of course, James was talking about that a moment ago, but I don't know what you'd renew out in Odessa, but
Sure.
the legal aspect, I really liked it, and no, other than I think you covered. I just got to amend my faux pas for the wrong committee.
Oh, no. No, yeah, he seemed knowledgeable in the area, and I'll share the rundown of his qualifications with Norma to forward to the board.
Tom, do you have anybody that you've worked with in the past that we might want to take a look at?
Yeah, actually, I got, 2 names today that I can forward.
Great.
I'll send, I forward them to Chris, or do I send them to?
Go ahead and send those to Melanie, and that'd be okay, Melanie?
Yeah,
Okay.
that'd be
Since
great.
you guys will be the ones calling, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other update? Thank you, guys. Thank you guys for the time and energy you guys are putting into that. Okay. Committee appointments. So we do need to discuss compliance committee. We actually have 5 of our compliance committee members whose terms ended on December 31st of 2022. First being Virginia Ruiz, who just completed her 3rd term and is now term limited out. Same thing with our chairman Jefferson Cox. He just completed his 3rd term. Mike Withrow has finished off somebody else's term and then has served 2. Gavin Norris has done 1 and then finished off somebody else's term. And then Ms. Peggy Dean has just finished her 1st term. So that means there are 5 terms that expired, 2 of which we have to replace because they're term limited out. And then with those that are still serving, Mr. Withrow has said he would like to serve again. And of course, Ms. Dean has graciously offered to serve us again as well, as has Gavin Norris. So I want to just open up a discussion on everyone. And we have and did everybody get the copies of the applications? Or everybody, we have 1, 2, 3, 11? I think that's probably right. About 11 that have turned in applications to serve, so.
We have more. I'd like to make a comment.
Please.
In view of Gavin Norris's lawsuit against the city, I think it's conflict of interest to renew his place on the committee because of conflict of interest.
Okay.
I mean, I'd make a motion to exclude his
Is that
name.
just because of his suit against the city doesn't have anything to do with any of this? Is it just because of the action he's taking against the city that
Well,
you
we're
think there's
directing money,
conflict?
and in that committee, we direct money, approve it, look at it, and.
Well, that committee doesn't make any decisions or direct any funds. It makes
Ulti-
recommendations
Yeah,
only.
ultimately it comes up here, but since the suit is about money, $250,000 against the city, I just, bear it out myself as a conflict of interest.
I'd make a motion that we renew or reappoint Mike Withrow and Peggy Dean to those 2 seats.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, I have a motion and a second for those 2 seats. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed, same sign? Okay, motion carries unanimous on those 2. Now, that still leaves the seats for Virginia Ruiz, for Jefferson Cox, and Gavin Norris. Do we have any comments on any of the applications that we received, also on Gavin?
Well, I would move that we reappoint Gavin. He's one of the very few attorneys on that committee. We need attorneys on that committee. I don't believe that his suit has any bearing on the work he does on that committee.
Okay, so I do have a motion to renew Gavin's appointment. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign?
Nay.
Nay. So I had, how many ayes did I have?
2 ayes.
2 ayes and 5 nays? Okay. So that one fails, so you have 3 positions to now choose from the applications that you have. Is there another motion for,
Yeah, I would move, and I'll tell you why. I think bankers are good to have on, I mean, if you think about, look at the bylaws, we ought to be looking at people with financial expertise with understanding business concepts, you know, how companies survive and don't survive. We ought to be, I think, professionals who, for a living, keep confidential information. So insurance agents, bankers, lawyers, CPAs. I mean, I think it's clearly identified in the bylaws that a majority should be that way. So I would like to make a motion for Kaylee Banda. Julie, she's a banker with Southwest Bank.
let's do these one at a time. I
Okay.
think that'd be cleaner. That's
fine.
okay.
That's fine.
Okay, so Kaylee Banda. Okay, so I have a motion at this second. Any more discussion first on Kaylee?
I'll second Kaylee.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Motion passes unanimous.
Okay.
I'd make a motion for Jamie Foreman.
Okay.
I've known Jamie for a long time. She's a small business owner, very, very involved in the community down south of town, down in Wilson's. She owns Wilson's Corners. But a very, very smart thinker, very good business person, and I think she'd make an excellent member.
I wouldn't dispute her business credentials. I have questions about whether or not she would have a conflict of interest. Doesn't she publish the Odessa Accountability Project Facebook page?
She does.
Would that be a
Would that be an
conflict?
issue with the confidentiality requirement that, in that committee?
Depend on if she shares any of that information.
Well, which would be an issue. It'd be a big issue.
Well,
Again, but only if she shares that information.
yeah, I think the question would be, does it put her in a position that she may slip up and share information that she shouldn't because of what she's doing? And I think that would be the concern that I would have. I think that's the reason that I think about Kaylee, for instance, as a banker that has to maintain confidential information, and therefore you typically wouldn't find that, Peggy Dean, you wouldn't find Peggy posting all kinds of information just because it's habitual for her to try to keep confidential information. And so I would be a little bit concerned about that. I'm not concerned about her business capability at all. It's just the circumstance that she's in. And
I mean, I think
that's
it
the point.
potentially creates a conflict for her.
I don't, just in the essence that she has a Facebook page that is a high-profile Facebook page, but I think that you could probably make the argument that just about everybody on Compliance Committee also has the social media profile, and based on their positions could also be high-profile.
I think there's a difference between having a social media profile and having a social media page where the purpose of it is to publish information that she's determined to be newsworthy. I mean, there's a big difference there.
So under the same guidelines, would you restrict the editor of the Odessa American under the same thought?
I don't think the Odessa Americans ever applied to be on the
No,
compliance
I mean,
committee.
Alex, I'm.
But I think
I'm
I'd have the
Probably.
same concerns.
I
I don't,
probably would.
the Odessa American is in the business of publishing information that they determine to be newsworthy.
I think they'd have to be
And the
really
nature
careful.
of that compliance committee is that, number one, the information has to be kept in confidence, but number two, the deliberations, in order for them to be, for people to feel free to speak their mind and discuss these things openly and honestly, they need to not have fear that they're gonna end up quoted on a Facebook news page.
Okay,
I'll withdraw that nomination and instead nominate Tim Harry.
okay, so I have a nomination for Tim Harry.
I'll second.
Discussion? Can I have a second for Tim Harry? Still any discussion?
I've never met Tim Harry. What is his, tell me about him. What is his,
He's that handsome bald man, right?
well, there's so many handsome bald men in this room. How would I know which one?
Easy now, easy now. The word handsome in that phrase saved you, I think.
Tim, would you like to come up and tell us? Is that?
I've never met Tim. I know I've read some of his Facebook comments.
Since you asked, this is Mr. Tim Harry.
Nice to meet you all. I'm Tim Harry. Currently serving on a couple different city boards. I'm currently the president of MOUTD, which is Easy Rider. So serving in that capacity, been there almost 2 years. I'm also serve on the zoning board of adjustment with that crew over there. I'm very active within scouting within the Permian Basin, active within a bunch of nonprofits. Secrets are something that is very near and dear to my career. I am a company chemist for a chemical solutions provider. I've been on everything on the mergers and acquisition side with multiple companies and acquiring companies, selling off sections of it, that kind of thing, keeping that. That's not a problem with me. That's kind of old hat. It's just you can't let that kind of information out without getting people into a whole lot of trouble real quick. I owned a company. I was CEO of a advertising agency. I did everything from here to Dallas. Took a lot of things back in the day. Grew that. Decided to get out of that business. It got to be a little stressful once I moved to Dallas. Figured out that it was a lot harder to make it in movies and television, and had a lot of fun doing it. But kind of got back out to Midland, Odessa. I've been in the chemical industry and have a lot of fun with that ever since. But that's me pretty much in a nutshell.
Do you think that there's any risk that you would discuss any of the deliberations and compliance in any of your Facebook comments or Facebook posts?
I don't discuss any of the deliberations that go on within my business on my Facebook page in any way, shape, form, or fashion. No better than doing that. That's business, and business is business. I don't discuss what goes on within MOUTD either. That's just not something we do. And there's definitely some boundaries, and I understand where those boundaries are.
Excellent.
Anything else?
Any other questions? Discussion? Okay, I have a motion from Ms. Holman. I have a second from Mr. Robinson. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes unanimously.
I'd like
That leaves one more.
to nominate Julie Prentice. We had an attorney go off, and this is an attorney.
I'll second that nomination.
Okay, I have a motion and a second right now for Julie Prentice. Did you want to continue to?
I think that's probably my biggest motivator. She's
Where
been here
the
10
committee
years.
is light on attorneys right now. It'd be valuable to have another attorney.
Okay. I have a motion for Mr. Boutan. I have a second from Ms. Holman. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Okay, so we now have our compliance committee up to date. Thank you guys very much. And let me get my stuff back in order here. Okay, we're now at item 8, 9, and 10. So we're gonna discuss and consider the grant application for Project Big Red Taylor Services. And Mr. Cox so graciously voluntold Ms. Dean to join us, so it's a pleasure to have you, Peggy. If you don't mind, come on up.
Sorry, I was trying to leave back here earlier.
That's okay. We appreciate your enthusiasm.
You know, one of my partners told me a long time ago that I was suffering under the delusion that all these numbers were interesting, so I still am. Thank you to all of you, and thank you for reappointing me to compliance. That's a committee that I feel very passionate about, and I do have certain skills that I think make a difference. So thank you, and I won't let you down. Now, right now, I'm Jefferson Cox. Jefferson couldn't be here. He is, yesterday was his last meeting as our chairman. And I'm sorry he couldn't be here because I know you all would welcome the opportunity to thank him for his service. So I don't know if you have him back and do that or you write him a note, but I'm going to tell him that you were all very, very sad to see him go for you. But he was a great chairman. Okay, the first thing that you had asked about was the Taylor Sudden Services. Okay, this is a project that you actually approved in December of 2021. The contract was never executed. The company actually had decided that they were going to explore another couple of options, maybe not here, but other places, and maybe even something else here. They've done that due diligence. They have since come back to compliance, to ODC and compliance, and said, we would like to go ahead with this project. It was approved December 2021. It changed about $23,000. This request is about $23,000 less than what it was back in December of 2021 because their dollar of capital investment went down just a little bit. So this was for 24 new full-time equivalents to be added. And for a total of 55 jobs. The recommendation, the way the matrix works, they would qualify for $862,579 paid annually over 5 equal payments. And this is just slightly a couple of $1,000s less than a year than what it was when you approved it last. So we would ask that you reapprove this and have Mr. Jones draw up the contract for it.
So just a quick question. One of the reasons that we sent that back was just for updated financials. And I'm asking the question for them because I know the answer. But did Taylor submit their new financials to get those caught up to date? And were there any issues?
I haven't seen them.
They did submit new financials.
Yeah. I was going to say, yes, I didn't analyze them, but I know they did, so yes.
Yes, ma'am. And I saw them too, and there were no issues. The financials were good.
And the difference between this recommendation and the previous recommendation was how much?
It's about $23,000 lower. And that was just due, the job creation was the same, but the amount of capital investment, the $2.4 million is a little bit less than the original was.
I move that we begin the process of making the grant as recommended to Taylor Sudden Services, and that we ask Mr. Jones to prepare a draft of that contract for us to review and approve.
Second.
Okay, so before I do that, so just to clarify, all we're doing here is just approving him to put the contract together, and then I'm assuming we'll come back later and approve the contract? Or are we asking him to do the contract now and go ahead and approve the grant?
We usually approve the contract before it, I mean, we've approved the grant, but we've got to do the contract, and we usually look at the contract again before.
That's what I was thinking. I just wanted to clear. Okay, so I have a motion and a second to allow city legal to go ahead and put together a contract for us. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Thank you for Project Big Red. That brings us on to Project Frost.
I don't think, do you want me to go ahead and report anything on that? We
I believe
actually
compliance
tabled
that,
it.
didn't they?
We did. We had a myriad of questions and have gotten response, are getting responses. But I don't think we're quite ready to bring that to you yet.
Yes, ma'am. We put that on the agenda since the compliance committee was actually yesterday, just in case we had something that we
Right.
could approve. So, okay, so that's been tabled. And that takes us to Apergy Champion.
Yes. This is just the compliance report from the auditors, Weaver, which recommended that, we are recommending that we would go ahead and they do qualify for their second payment. They got one payment a year ago for $400,000. This one is $200,000. There was one piece of information in the audit that we kind of beat up and surmised on what was wrong with it. And it was a variance between their TWC report and their payroll report, their internal payroll report. We were under, or I was under the assumption, so I don't know if Mr. Robinson and our chairman were or not, but president were or not, but I thought that they were saying that their internal payroll reports were greater than the TWC report, which would lead you to believe, well, why do they have employees on their payroll that are not, and were they in fact Odessa employees, and, you know, how could that happen? And we discussed how that could happen, that some of them maybe could work in New Mexico, you know, part-time or something. Well, as it works out, we got an answer back to that today, and it's really just the opposite. Their payroll reports for here are less than the TWC report, which makes sense because they have other TWC employees throughout the state. So actually, they have significantly more proven payroll than what they need for this grant. So, but that is the answer. We were looking at it, or I was, as if it could be an issue the other way. Actually, it's not an issue at all.
Excellent. Excellent explanation.
So
too.
we would ask that you approve the second payment of $200,000 to Apergy.
Make a motion to approve. I have two motions from Dr. Kirk and also from Mr. Boutan. So you can take one in a second. That's great. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Hearing none, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you, and thanks
Thank you, Ms.
again
Dean.
for letting me serve again.
Thank you. Okay, so brings us to item 11, discuss and consider the contract for marketing services from current media partners. At this point, I had a question for Mr. Jones. So, you know, I know you guys were starting to put that contract together, and Christy, you'd sent some information over to me, which I'd forwarded to Jan. And so, do we kind of have an idea where we're at on the contract process?
Tina, do we have an idea?
What am I missing? What did I not do?
No, did you respond to the questions from Ms. Baker, the term, the? Excuse me, if you can come up to the mic, please. Thank you.
Come on up here.
Come on, Tina.
So do we need to do it like the Price is Right? Come on
Yeah,
down.
calm down.
So Ms. Baker had sent an email, just asking various terms. I'm not copied on any of those
No,
emails.
no, please. That's what I figured. I'm sitting there going, okay, I probably failed to do something. So, I thought I had, but seeing as how I don't remember exactly, I'm gonna say I didn't, just to be
Okay.
safe. So,
Basically, I've prepared the contract using the CVA's old contract, and of course, I'm just swapping out the contractor. So the only things I really need is the term. Did we decide we're going through end of
Fiscal.
September?
fiscal, yes, ma'am.
Okay. On the dollar amount, can I get an updated budget?
375, and did you send that to me?
Yes, and it's got the budget.
The breakdown.
And we added the contingency in case there are any projects.
25,000.
Okay,
it'd be a
yeah,
total
with the
of 3.
contingency, and I thought you carbon copied legal on it, but that could be just in my mind. Didn't, just send it to me? Okay, so let me forward that to you.
Okay.
that has the breakdown of the 375 in the different categories.
Okay, and the last thing that I need is just contact information for you.
I can forward everything straight to
Please.
from here. Would that be okay?
That'd be great.
Is that good?
Okay.
I'll just forward it to you right now.
Okay,
And
so I
Christie,
should have a draft to you
Christie, while
very
we-
shortly.
While we have you here, would you please, I don't think we talked about this in that committee, I just thought about it. When you get your bill prepared each month, would you send it to the ad committee
Yes,
for review before sending it on
before
for
going,
payment?
yes, yes.
And we'll commit to turn that around
Sure.
in a day or two.
I'll probably do a budget to actual, just so you can see where everything is each
Yes.
month, and then there's no questions, so you
And,
bet.
and then if you would also, once that bill is paid in the next ODC packet, would you make sure that billing gets included in the packet so that all the ODC members can see what we spent?
So that we have the, sure, yeah, and I'll get with you on how that looks,
and
and,
include it
of
so
course.
that everybody knows what's going on.
of course, so,
idea.
yep, I can
Thank
do
you.
that. So, you bet.
Excellent. So on the contract at this second, because I do want you guys to have eyes on it before we vote on it, how is this going to throw you? I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Sorry, I just had recent partial knee replacement. I'm sorry, I'm so slow. So the only thing, I mean, right now it's time. For the most part, it's our time. That is fine. We do have that SHOT Show scheduled to start running Sunday. It will be in the $1,500 to $2,000 range. I mean, I am okay continuing with that. I think it's important that we get that out there
Okay.
while they're there. I don't know, you know, without a contract, I'm glad to take that on and then do it later, you know. That's really the only really pressing thing.
Is there
Is that?
any other expenses you can foresee in the next, between now and the next meeting?
I think the ones between now and the next meeting, I mean, we're incurring time again and
Okay.
things like that, that I can just take and bill 2 months at once, if that's okay with the board. That's not a problem here.
Okay.
I won't place any media unless,
Well, what I was thinking is
check.
if we have some items maybe we can vote on to approve for you here, that way you can do that and if we need to get that payment out.
it might be nice to have a contingency, and in case there's anything that comes back up, I don't know.
If it ain't on the agenda, no.
Okay, thank you.
No, if it's not
Okay.
on the agenda, we're not, no.
See, I told you we should keep legal in here. Gosh, I'll keep arguing with me. No. Okay, so basically, are you good till the next meeting?
Yes, yes, I think so. I mean,
Because that'll give us time for him to draw up the contract. We can approve the contract and then you're good.
okay,
So,
okay.
sorry.
No, that's
That's on me.
fine. I mean, any issues with me running a very small campaign on my own, knowing that it's at my own risk, I guess, at that point?
That's pretty much it.
Okay, that's not a problem. Okay, sounds good, and I'll forward that to you. So,
Thank you,
okay,
Christie.
thanks.
Thank you, Tim. Yes, ma'am. You have another question? I can see it in your face.
Well, just, all I needed was that information. The contract is otherwise ready.
I apologize. It's my fault. So let me apologize to legal. I'm sorry.
No.
I dropped the ball on
And
that.
it's always best to include me, only because if the
Yeah.
attorney is in a project, if I see it, I start on it right away.
Okay.
So if you
Yeah.
just install me on it.
Always include Tina. I mean, she's really the brains of the outfit for me, so, just include her.
What do you want me to send it to you, send it to the whole board? I can have that out probably morning.
I would say let's get it, as long as we've got it in the packet for the next board meeting, to give them time to review it and ask questions.
You know,
Any other suggestions,
if it's
Mr.
not, well, if it's not inconvenient for everybody else, we could also have a quick special meeting. I mean, we gotta post it properly and everything, but we could do that in order to avoid this.
If that's needed, we could do that. I have no problem with it.
Keep things moving. We would keep things moving.
I wouldn't incur expense without a contract.
That's my, yeah.
Okay.
I hate to miss an opportunity for you guys, but
So then,
that show also starts, Tracy, the SHOT Show's the 17th, right?
It starts Monday,
Yeah, so technically, we really need to be running Sunday. I mean, I don't know,
today's Thursday. I mean, but we've got to give
We don't have
72
time
hours
to
notice.
post.
We have to give 72 hours
But, I
notice.
mean, if that's the only item that you're working on, and by the time we get the contract done, there's not a whole lot of risk.
There's not a big
I
deal.
mean,
That's-
we're
yeah.
basically in public session talking about the fact that all we've gotta do is get the contract done, so.
Okay.
It's not like there's the likelihood that it's not gonna happen. So the risk is minimal, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Got it. That's the only thing I'll do.
Consult your own lawyer.
Sorry?
I said consult your own attorney on it.
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
Thanks, Tom.
Okay.
Yes, sir?
We
I thought you were waving on the way out the door.
Yeah, we thought you were leaving.
I can't hear in this ear today for some reason. For that particular thing, the SHOT Show, oh, I need to come up, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Norman. I'm gonna get you a bullwhip.
This has been the most fun meeting. For that particular project with the SHOT Show and the geofencing and everything, we have some marketing in our budget. We can incur the cost for this item. And then plan on a meeting sooner than later after that for moving forward.
And of course, we can reimburse you to the, I'm sure the board can.
I had already started that paperwork on my phone. No, I'm kidding. No, but I mean, we can, you know, because when she explained everything she can do associated with trade shows and everything that we haven't taken advantage of to this point, we were like, yeah, let's jump all over that.
Okay.
So.
That would be great. That'd be fantastic.
Anything in the next 30 days, your department can incur that until that contract is approved.
Excellent. And then you guys can just send the bill to the ad committee, and then they can send that for reimbursement. Does that work for you guys?
But I would encourage us, if it's convenient for everyone, to have a special meeting just to get this behind us.
I've got no problem with that. You guys wanna look at a day next week?
We'll
Go ahead and do it.
You and I will be out of town next week.
I hope you and I will be out of town next week. You'll be out of town.
But we could do it the Monday after.
Yeah.
Whatever the date that is,
Yeah,
what is that day?
Then if that's okay, I'll get with legal and we'll get that scheduled and send you guys notice and y'all just let me know if that works.
You know, get Norma to page it, to check us for dates and whatnot, and we ought to do that.
Okay.
I appreciate it. Any other questions? So, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So remind me, because I've almost slept since then. Did we approve, did we go ahead and vote to approve putting the contract together? I think we did, didn't we?
Well,
Did we get through the vote?
I think we've already done that.
We
Okay.
did-
I
we-
couldn't remember if we actually voted or not.
When we approved the contractor, we
Okay.
did that.
Okay, excellent. Excellent. And we've already done item 12. 13, discuss and consider donation agreement amendment between ODC and TxDOT. So with this, and Tom, I may help me with this one, there was just a change to the contract number, is that right?
Correct.
Okay, and James, I know you could probably weigh in on that also. So there weren't to the contract, dates, times, the project, amounts that we've already granted, anything like that. They just, with TxDOT, they actually changed their contract number, and therefore, since that changed, I guess, on the contract, we have to vote to approve that.
Move for approval.
Motion for approval, Mr. Boutin.
Second.
Have a second for Mr. Russell and Mr. Robinson. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries unanimously. Where's my second page go? Okay. And with that, is there any other business we have to discuss? And no need to go into executive session, so with that, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second?
Motion and a second to adjourn.
We did have citizens' comments on non-agenda items. Do we want to I mean, I think.
Oh, yes, sir, thank you for catching that.
We ought to do that.
Yeah, so any citizens' comments on non-agenda items before we move on? Thank you, Mr. Boutin.
I withdraw my motion
You withdraw your motion now?
to adjourn.
Okay. Well, now that we have taken care of, there's no citizens' comments, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Dr. Curtis. Have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you guys so much for your time. Thank you. Keep me straight, really.
That's my
That's what we scooted you.
That's my strong